to as we
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here on a Monday morning. As always, we do our revenue share interview with one of the big alphas or betas, and man, we've come across a big one today. We pulled in the well. And I think we even have you lined up. I think Tim and Julie. I think I heard Jeff and them say lined up to help us with on a Tuesday, also with production. So I think that's set up. So thank you so much, man, and congrats on all your
No, I
success.
don't think it is. I don't think it is yet.
No,
So
okay, we'll have to
if he's
talk
Well,
looking,
about that. So
ne
Tim,
if
you
he's
next
do,
looking confused, I don't think we've got him set up.
ne
But we'd love to, Tim.
yes,
So
we
we'll
would
talk
love
about that
to.
another time.
Yeah.
next Tuesday's fine. Tomorrow I'm busy.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll do something because I think we have the month full, but maybe we can have you guys come on in July on a Tuesday. We interview somebody, have somebody come on and teach production, whatever it is you're really, really good at on a Tuesday morning. Man, we'd love to have you guys come do that as well if you'd be game.
Sure, of course.
Okay. Let's kick this off. Tim and Julie, you guys, obviously the heading is meet your coaches, right? These guys are two huge wells in the industry, and we're so blessed and privileged to have them on this morning. So our real estate journey began 30 years ago, and we knew early on that we wanted to share our playbook to success. We've had the pleasure of transforming thousands of careers, achieving success and financial freedom. We know what it takes, and we're looking forward to meeting you so we can jumpstart your growth. You guys, they have 3,300 agents in their group, 116 FLAs, 50 FLQAs. So we can all just kind of get this down. That's easily top 1% of 1%. So congrats. I have personally sponsored over 300 since January of 2019. Um, January 2019, I sponsored 43. They didn't all come in January, but did the apps. So we need to figure out what in the world are Tim and Julie doing to bring in these kind of folks. So Tim, thank you so much for jumping on here. Is Julie with us as well?
No, she's got the sense of not over obligating herself to Zoom. So go her.
Well, man, why don't you start off? Some people may not know who you guys are. So tell us what you'd like to know about you and Julie, your family, and maybe even your real estate journey. Maybe take us up to the point of right before you heard about EXP. A little bit about you and
Uh,
your journey.
well, I mean, I just between you and me, Sean, I hate talking about myself. We put at
Do it,
coaching
man. We want to hear it.
coaching as long as we have. One of the first things you do is you basically teach yourself to remove your ego. So anytime I have to start using personal pronouns like I, it always gives me the willies. Just so you know. So we're going to
Get over
blaze
it
through
now.
this. All right. Well, I know. I know. I understand. So Julie and I started selling real estate, and we did our first real estate transaction when we were 22 and 23. We've been married for 34 years this year. We met in high school. Um, and no, I'm not as old as you think I am. I'm much younger. That didn't work out. People usually say, "You don't look that old." Anyway, giving myself a compliment. It's off to a bad start. So, we've been married for 34 years this year. We did
And
our
you
first
don't look that old, Tim.
Thank you. God bless you. Good golly. Did I have to really lay it out like that? Y'all are slow. Thank
I'm the only quick one in the group, but
Yeah,
keep going.
I'm getting that, Kathy. So we started selling when our first full year selling real estate, we sold over 100 homes. It was 103 with our pendings. And you'd think that, huh?
No, I'm just more like, how in the world did you do 103 your very first year? Just
Well,
your
okay, so
income?
here's the absolute truth. Okay, so Julie and I had a car cleaning and detailing business, and we went to college together. So when we were done with college, we had a car cleaning and detailing business, and that business was really starting to take off. And Julie actually was working in a part-time Christmas store as a 12-month year. She was a full-time elf basically. So it's kind of funny. And so what we did is in our first full year in real estate is I gave away the detailing business because I couldn't sell it, and Julie quit her job. So we effectively had no other source of income. Now we when we did that, we weren't organized necessarily like we teach agents to do now because we were just in our 20s. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We'd never earned a lot of money before. So none of our family members were in real estate. We literally were complete babes in the wood. People were like, what the hell are these two clowns doing? Actually, Julie, can you get the pictures that are back there in the box so I can show them what we looked like when we first started selling real estate to really make the point? Anyway, so our first year in the business, we sold over 100 homes. How did we do it? It wasn't until probably August or September. We were sitting outside of a movie theater um, in Dublin, Ohio, and we started trying to add up how many houses we'd sold. This is what really happened. We think we were like, we think we're around 75. So we call our broker, his name's Rory Averill. And we ask Rory, we say, Rory, like, what's, how many houses does an agent normally sell per year? And this is what he said. And I'm not even making this up. He goes, how many houses have you sold so far this year? And we said, we're on 75. And he goes, call me back when you get to 100. Click. And he just hung up the phone. That was like the perfect broker for us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we ended up selling over 100. And how did we do it? We did it by doing the things that it's proactive lead generation. We focused on listings. We went after expireds. We went after for sale by owners. We worked the hell out of open houses. We weren't buying business. We weren't doing a lot of marketing, branding. And our net we earned over 300,000, and this was back in the 90s. That was the equivalent of probably 700,000 now. And this is when we were in our mid 20s. And nobody in our families have ever earned that much amount of money before. I came from poor people. Julie's people were middle class school teachers. So this was completely unprecedented. It wasn't, and again, it wasn't by design necessarily. We were just basically out there just working it. And we didn't want to have to go back to cleaning cars, and she didn't want to have to go back to being an elf. I mean, long story short. Turns out there's not a lot of work for English majors. So every year after that, we consistently sold more homes. And you guys y'all look too young to know who Howard Brinton is. But in 1997 or 8, something like that, he made us Howard Brinton stars. Remax started flying us to different regions. We became, as much as you can inside the Remax ecosystem, we became fairly famous. And then people started asking us to coach them. And we're like, duh, what's coaching? And so we just started saying yes. That seems to work more often when you say yes than when you say no. So we just started saying yes. And we had our first coaching client. And then it sort of just took off from there. And it was probably about, so we were selling real estate and coaching concurrently. And we sold real estate for about 10 years, always between 100 and 200 homes. And then the coaching revenue got to the point where the net from it was more than what we were making from selling real estate. And so we just started focusing on coaching. And the other thing is we didn't want to live in Columbus, Ohio the rest of our lives. And coaching gave us the opportunity to live wherever we wanted to, like revenue share. And so we moved out of Ohio, and we moved to, actually this is before we had a kid. We moved to Las Vegas, and we had a place in Laguna Beach. So we lived in both places. And we lived like that for like 10 years. Then we moved to Austin. Now we're in Puerto Rico, and we have a place here where we are now in the mountains of North Carolina. So that's basically it. I mean, I'm skipping a lot, but the gist of it is that
yeah. No, that's good, man.
You guys want to see some funny pictures? Want to see some funny pictures?
Yes. Let me see.
Okay. Okay, there's one. Okay, but that's not the funny one. This is the funny one.
Who is that?
That's Julie and I.
What?
No, the funny thing is Julie's gotten a lot prettier. I look about the same with white hair.
That does not look like you.
No,
Wow.
well, but
Awesome.
I've always shown you guys those because those clothes we bought them in a consignment store, a thrift shop, because we didn't have any money to buy clothes. That's the reason it looks like we're wearing our parents' clothes, because we probably were wearing someone's parents' clothes. That's the truth. Okay.
How long ago was
this is
that?
the rags to riches story right here.
Well, but it wasn't by design. I'm promising you, when we're not sitting around with these this is before social media. Julie and I were just working to what we could do. And we were doing, it was fun working together. It was fun selling houses. Selling houses was a hell of a lot easier than what all of our friends were doing that had also graduated college, working in some, crappy job someplace.
Yeah.
So, it worked out, and we didn't stop, and we haven't stopped. And from a personal perspective, our personal income has never had a down year since we started. We've always earned more money every single year. So,
oh, congratulations, man. Well, take us up to the point. I'm curious. I do not know this story, Tim. So how did you first hear about EXP, and what was it that moved you over the edge? What made you join, right? If you already had this huge coaching business and stuff.
okay, I'll tell you the true story. Again, y'all are not going to have to. So if you ever hear me telling a more polished up story, if we're ever in front of a larger group, you guys will know the truth. But, I'm going to tell you the true story. All right. So Julie and I have probably what is now the third or fourth largest coaching organization in the United States. Who cares? Just we'll hover there. What really matters is our podcast. So our podcast has had over 20 million downloads. If you're not listening to it, the links and everything are over on the comments section. If you guys want to go over there and just link to the podcast and whatever, go to comments. But the podcast, Julie and I do it every day. It's, Thursday, it had 15,000 downloads on iTunes and probably another, 3,000 views on YouTube, all this. So that's where we focused all of our best energies. I'm trying to circle this back to recruiting for you, Sean.
Okay.
What was your question, by the way? I got lost in the
whole
numbers.
EXP, so I'm curious.
Oh
right
yeah,
now,
okay, now I
you guys
remember.
being, well, how we first
Yeah.
approached or heard about
Right.
it.
So everybody and their brother was approaching us to join EXP, as you can imagine, all the way back to when EXP started. But every time we were presented to, and God bless the people that presented to us, they did a terrible job. One of the guys I was sitting with was trying to get us to join EXP, showing us the avatars that are bouncing around in Verbella. I'm like, bro, what? Didn't even talk about revenue share, like completely missed it. And then there were a whole bunch of others after that. So then one day, over a series of probably about 2 weeks, I started getting panic calls from some of the brokers, some of the highest end coaching clients that we have. And they were saying, I'm losing all my agents and they're joining EXP. And I thought, I remember this because the last one I got was from a guy named Brandon Jackson, who was running a big office in North Carolina. And he called me and said, I'm losing like 50 of my agents to this EXP and blah, 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 blah. What is it? And I'm like, maybe I've not been paying enough attention to what the hell EXP is. So I called Chris Heller, who is a longtime friend, who is a former CEO of Keller Williams. And here was Chris's reaction. I called him. I said, Chris, what's the deal with EXP? I'm having, this is what I see happening in the marketplace. This is like in 2018. And he started laughing at me. That's what he did. And he said, how are you not involved in EXP? He said, you guys are like the perfect people to be involved in EXP. Why are you not doing this? And I'm like, so yeah. Then I listened to what he had to say and we explored the numbers. And I talked to Gene and then we joined. Julie, I don't have a real estate license. Julie does. So it's Julie's downline, I probably won't get a license. I just recruit under Julie. I'll tell you guys another secret. You ready for another secret? Yeah. She's never done a single recruiting call ever. She's never recruited anybody herself, but she's the #1 female recruiter by pure numbers in EXP. You're not allowed to tell anybody.
So who ended up being your sponsor? So you had all these people approaching you. Who did you call back and decide to allow to be your sponsor?
That's a complicated question to save for another day. Let's just say when we went to EXP and we talked with Gene, there were some chess moves that it was some reciprocal whatevers because they knew Julie and I were going to be unicorns. And so let's just leave it at that.
Okay. So
okay.
Unicorns come on board, giant podcast, huge coaching clients, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hesitant to ask how it all happened, but with that kind of credibility, you made the move over. Was there an immediate focus on rev share? Is that one of the main things that moved you over, or what was it that really pulled you?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys another story. So we went to an EXP event. This is before we joined. This is when we were living in Austin. We were driving back up from San Antonio. This is an event that Gene did. It was great. We had been to billions of real estate events, so many so that you guys will be hard pressed to ever find us at any real estate event. We just don't like going to them anymore. Anyway, so we were at this one, and this was back in 2018. And Julie and I had never been to a real estate event like that before. People were not just like rah, pep rally, Mickey Mouse, or looking for the latest shiny object. They were genuinely happy. I mean, we were sitting, Julie and I walked in and we sat in different places in this room, maybe only a couple hundred people there. And we started talking up other people, just getting to kind of wanted to do man on the street interviews. This is before we made the decision. And every single person we tripped over was like, oh my God, it's changed my life. I'm making this much per month passive from revenue share. I'm paying all my bills. I'm paying my truck payment. I paid off this medical bill, all this crap. And so Julie and I are then, and I hadn't personally said I'm all in. Okay. Julie was at this point. And so we're driving back up from San Antonio. We're driving to Georgetown, which is north of Austin where we lived. And it's a long toll road 130, I think. You can go like 85 and we're just blazing along. And I said, Julie, I'm just still not really jamming with this. It just doesn't, I was confused about it because I was worried that we were going to lose coaching clients because we have coaching clients this day that are not with EXP, a lot.
Yeah.
And if you include podcast listeners, we have literally tens of thousands that are not with EXP. So we then we had this conversation and Julie asked me this question. She said, so, what you just asked, Sean, she said, so why are you what's your mission? What are you trying to do? And she was kind of setting me up. I knew, but I let her do it. I said, well, at this point, we're doing this because we're trying to improve agents' lives. It was, it's how I really feel. We long ago we don't have to work for money anymore. Our money's working for us. So at this point we're doing, because frankly, it's hard not to do it anymore because we're good at it. And we've been doing it for so long. It's hard to not do it. Coaching, podcasting, the rest of it. So really when I'm coming across something, I'm asking myself, if I were still practicing real estate, would I want to use this? And is this sincerely going to help the agents that know, love, and trust us? Is it really going to help them? Not just, it can't be just ego crap. It has to be something that's going to put them in a position to help people make money and so they can take care of their families. That's really our mission. And if that. And so she said, so do you think EXP will help us to be in alignment with what our vision is? And I thought about it. And then she reminded me, she said, and this is the frustrating part of coaching. So you can do a great job, world-class, best ever coaching, and then they're left to the perils of real estate. So if they have a bad broker relationship that's taking too much of their money and they live in a double tax state tax, federal tax, and all this, they're never really going to significantly move the needle. And if they're living in a market where the average sale price is like $400,000 and they're getting, double taxed, and then they're paying 25% to their broker. So we would have all these agents that would work their butts off trying to create brighter futures for themselves, and they weren't able to do it. Not because they weren't talented, not because they weren't using what we taught them in coaching. What's because their overall situation was really, really hard. Like, the world doesn't want you to be rich. Nobody in your life wants you to be rich. Nobody. Your broker doesn't want you to be rich. Though EXP, I think, is an exception. The government sure as hell doesn't want you to be rich. Your family doesn't want you to be rich. Your neighbors don't want you to be rich, because rich is where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money. And as soon as you basically no longer have to work for your money and you're off the hamster wheel, people don't know where you exist in their worlds, because you all of a sudden have transcended the need for having to basically grind it out every day. So in most markets, agents are, even in a market cycle like this, it's really painful to see agents that are so absolutely screwed, especially the ones with the teams, especially the ones that have been buying buyer leads. They're not making any money. They're losing money. A lot of them are declaring bankruptcy. They're having horrible hardship. I could tell you guys another story if you want another story.
Yeah, bring
You guys
it.
want another story? Okay. So Julie and I we coached for Mike Ferry for 4 years, and we had usually 60 to 70 weekly clients for a half hour. That's what we did. We wake up every morning at 4:30 and we'd work every day till 1. This is when we were living in Laguna Beach. So we quit Mike's, and then it was like May or June of 2007. And Keller Williams was aggressively trying to recruit us because they wanted us to be one of their coaches, 2 of their coaches, obviously. And so they flew us to, I think it was Austin, I don't remember. And it was after some big event. I don't remember what it was. We just were there to talk to Mark Willis. And Mark Willis was the CEO at the time. So they put us in this big conference room, and and Julie and I were sitting there waiting, not for long. We heard the crowd screaming, yeah, blah, 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 the big thing. And then Mark walks, you could hear Mark, and Mark walked off the stage. We could just hear it. It was so loud. And then he walks into this conference room, maybe like 3 minutes later after his event ended. And he's sitting across from us. So he sits down in front of us, and he didn't know that we weren't in the room. And so he asked us, like, what'd you guys think? And we were like, yeah, rah, rah. What the hell are you going to say? The CEO of Keller Williams, right? So we were like, we're sitting there, and we are just done working with Mike. And so he basically knew he was there to help recruit us because Diana Kokoska really wanted us to work for her. And Diana's wonderful, by the way. In our opinion, she's fantastic. We said, well, great, great, great. And this was right when the market was going to shit in 2007. Okay.
To Miss Hunter, one of the most important things.
Got him.
Yeah. Isn't that satisfying? Isn't there a strange feeling of satisfaction we having to mute somebody? Dupe. Wouldn't you love to have that in real life? Dupe.
Exactly.
Exactly. You're gone. All right. So Mark sits in front of us. And then this was in 2007 and Julie and I wanted to go back. So we knew a lot about short sales, because when we sold real estate, it was always a challenging market. And so we knew how to do short sales, and we wanted to come out with a nationwide short sale program. And we did. And, it was fantastic for us. But in any event, so we're in there talking to Mark, and Mark's trying to, be Mark. Very, very, very good man. And he then starts his, I'll never forget this. It's almost emotional for me to describe it, because what he came after, it was so true. He went from being, boisterous Mark, and then his body language, his shoulders went forward, and he like put one elbow on the table. I can literally see him as I'm telling you guys this. And then he started saying how scared he is. He moved past this Mark Willis on stage, moved past this Mark Willis, the CEO, wearing his fancy suit and his gold Rolex. And then he's leaning in front of us and saying, he then starts telling us this out of the blue, and he doesn't know us, right? This is the first time we've ever met him. So he then starts telling us what happened in Dallas during the 80s, when he was selling real estate, when the oil stuff and all the energy crisis and all the rest of it, he started talking about how he saw all the hardship that humans can experience. He saw it firsthand. people committed suicide, obviously got divorced, a lot of health problems. And he said a lot of people never, and this was maybe what would have been 20 years later, he said many people never have been able to dig themselves out of that hole. He said the hardship that the industry has coming, it's never experienced before. And he said people aren't ready. That's what he said. That's what he said to us. Now, I thought that was fascinating in that he didn't say that to the group of agents he was just speaking to. He felt comfortable saying that to us, and he was 100% right. So the reason that that was so important to us is because at that point, we launched our short sale program. He motivated us. We were already going to do it, but then we really supercharged it, and it really worked out, and we hit the market perfectly for it. So you ask why we wanted to be with EXP. It's because of that memory. Because unfortunately, nobody wants you to be rich. Unfortunately, the world is set up to keep you always dependent on a job, but most specifically, the government does not want you to be rich because you no longer need the government. If you are rich, where you no longer have to work for your money and your money works for you, would you live in the same place? Would you vote the same way? Would you dress the same way? Would you have the same friends? Would you eat the same food? Would your relationship with God be different? Would your relationship with your friends and family be different? So when you're right now, when you're dependent on money, when you have to live in a particular geographic area, you have to comply and you have to be complicit with the culture that's there. Otherwise, you won't be able to make a living and you'll be an outcast, especially selling real estate. No one will do business with you. So you have to adapt their political norms and you have to adapt, their perspectives on this or the other thing. And you are essentially, without knowing it, burdening yourself with a lot of shit that just keeps you in jail your entire life. And it's not until you get rid of those burdens where you don't need to be reliant on a geographic area or a group of people that you all of a sudden realize how big, beautiful, and amazing life is and how much you'd been in a prison cell before that. So
As I listen to you, this would obviously be incredible conversation just to get going with an agent who's open to just talk and dialogue and stuff, because you're really opening their mind, kind of about helping them cast vision, let them figure out where most of the population's stuck and just grinding it out. So I have not listened to your podcast, but I'd imagine this is a lot of the podcast dialogue.
None of it. We don't talk about recruiting on our podcast ever.
Not recruiting, about just life.
Oh,
life
yeah.
And how. So let's take what you've been talking about then. Obviously, you make the move over to EXP.
Yeah.
Walk us through, how does it start off right out of the beginning?
Just to finish your question though, because it is a really good question, Sean, is that EXP allowed us to close the loop, right? So Julie and I were able to get the loop. We couldn't ever close the loop. We could do a great job getting the agents trained up. We could do a great job helping them earn consistent money, but we could never make it so they're ever financially independent. It was really freaking hard. Buying rental properties right now sucks. Yeah. And the S&P 500 is going to take a long time. So trying to help those agents make it. And so when I understood revenue share, when I was in that room with all those other people that are bouncing off the walls, that to me was the closing of the loop, and my decision was made. Because I wanted to be able to take agents to a place where not only could we train them up and make them really powerful agents from our coaching, but I also wanted to put them in an environment where the broker wasn't going to rip them off, frankly, and where they had an opportunity through revenue share to make themselves financially independent. Remember, rich is merely where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. So if you need $10,000 a month, Kathy Carter, I think I actually remember you from Howard Brinton, by the way. I think I might. Okay. So if you are, if you need $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, if you've got that money coming in passively, by definition, you're rich. Your money is working for you. You no longer have to work for your money. You wake up every morning and you have enough money coming in to easily pay all of your bills and take care of all your financial obligations. You are rich. It doesn't have to be 10 million or 20 million or 30 million or $1 billion. You don't have to have a freaking yacht or a jet. Julie and I, because where we live in Dorado, Puerto Rico, we have lots of people with yachts and jets. I'll tell you what you want is you don't want a yacht or a jet. You want friends with yachts and jets.
Good point.
That's what you want. Because yachts and jets suck. They break all the time. And frankly, I don't even like yachts. But anyway, that's that's not terrible, but it's true. I don't like going on boats. Anyway, so yes, that's the closing of the loop for us.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, first of all, that's awesome. I love the story. So I want to hear what you're doing right now to attract. Obviously, I don't even want to try to read into it, but I got a feeling of what's going on. But give us the scoop. You make the move over. How did it first start off with the rev share? Because I know you had a bunch of coaching clients.
So what I did, this was before Julie moved her license in, it was like January of 2019. We were in Hawaii at a speaking event and I was sitting on the beach being bored. And I started messaging people on Facebook pictures of Julie and Zoe on the beach to all of our Facebook friends. And we had a lot of people we've known in real estate forever. And then it was around Christmas. So I got a lot of conversations started. And then from that, I was able to convert 43. And they joined, they didn't move their licenses right away, but just I had 43, let's say, contracts signed in that first month. And then I have recruited personally over 50 people. It's over 300 people is what I've recruited. But I'll tell you one of the things. I'm going to give you guys some suggestions and mistakes I think people are making in general. And it's going to fly in the face of everything you've been told. And I'm not setting you up for some big, this isn't a marketing bullshit statement. It's just a fact. The more fields you have, the more drip funnels and the more, electronic Mickey Mouse you have between you and any prospect, the less money you're going to make, period, in the conversation. So you guys, and I see this happening all the time. Everybody is being pressured right now in real estate to become an influencer, to all of a sudden have to have a bunch of social media and to funnel them into some, drip campaign, some fancy ass thing that you can then have emails and videos and all this other crap. Everyone's doing it, and AI is going to make it so everyone and their cat's doing it. Literally everyone, you're going to see Instagram cats that have their own drip campaigns, So that stuff is not special. And all the people who are teaching, and I hope I'm not pissing anybody off. Sincerely, I hope that. All the people that are teaching you guys that that's the way forward, they're lying to you. Because the reality of it is why did you get into real estate? Why'd you get into real estate? Make money, have freedom, don't have a boss, help people, you like houses, those types of things, right? And so if you then realize that all that social media stuff, all it really does is stand in the way of your original motivations to get into real estate, you should stop doing it. Because like if you, for example, were decide to, I'll tell you what all of you guys should do. You should all, first of all, 100% on our podcast. And I told you guys how many people listen to our podcast. I will say, I'll slip in an EXP pitch and I'll give them my actual cell phone number to text me. Okay. I'm not going to send them to a funnel. I do have a funnel, but I don't use it. I send them to me and they'll send me a text. And then my process is very simple. They text me from the podcast and I just do a light pitch, nothing very aggressive. And I don't even do it every day. And then I'll get 3 or 4 people that will text me. And then I'll ask them when they text me to give me a little bio on themselves. I'm a new agent. I'm a seasoned agent. I've been an agent, whatever. And then I send them a link to our website for our group. And I'm going to send it to you guys right now. I'm going to put it in comments. .com. Okay, there. That is our group's website. Now, when someone joins with us, they all get that website themselves. So for example, this is a recruiting website that we made back in 2000. I got to see if yeah. So when you join with Libertas and Julie and I, you get your own recruiting website. So when someone texts me, what I'll do is I'll say, well, could you please watch the 3 videos on whylibertas.com? And then let's talk tomorrow. We'll catch up after you've watched the 3 videos. Sometimes they've already watched them, but usually they haven't. They'll watch the videos and then I'll text them back and I'll say, tomorrow at 2:00, and I'll text them back and I'll say, do you have a chance to watch the videos? They did. And then I'll say, well, do you have any questions or would you like me just to send you the application and help you fill it out? And I would say probably 50% of the time they've already started the application themselves. That's the truth. The time I have to spend actually having long drawn out conversations with people about recruiting, I don't know how this sounds honestly, but I won't do it. Because if you have to talk somebody into joining EXP, they're not ready to join EXP. Now, sometimes they just want to play a little mental hijinks and just, mess around with you a little bit, but that's what the videos are for. So by the time I'm going to give someone my full attention, they pretty much are 99% there. Sometimes they just want to talk to me because they listen to the podcast or things like that, which I'm always happy to do. You guys following me here? So the more now, don't just say, well, Tim and Julie have a big podcast, so I can't replicate that. Of course you can. But the point is you got to be communicating with people directly and don't put them into don't put them into funnels. I didn't call them stupid. Don't put them into funnels. Get on the damn phone, call them and pre-qualify them just like you're supposed to be doing with sellers. Do the work.
So I would see Sandra doing a little clapping. So we do have a handful of seasoned funnels, but let me back up for just a minute because obviously what's going through my mind is you have started this podcast, it's been going for years. You've got a massive following. So the moment they know who you are, they see your website, obviously you're like an attraction magnet because they want to be able to obviously team up with you guys. So let me ask you, because obviously you've been around this industry forever, let's back up for a minute. Agents that are on here right now that are fairly new, maybe only been an agent for a year or two, or maybe an agent for 5, 6, 7 years, but all they've ever focused on is production. Now they want to start doing attraction. If you were coaching one of us right now that really hasn't started doing the attraction at all, whether they sell 8 to 10 houses a year, whether they sell 30, what would be your advice to them starting right now going, I want to start this rev share? What would you tell them?
Well, I'll get to the punchline. We should all be co-sponsoring together.
Well,
But Sean, seriously, and you know, I understand the pluses and the minuses of being the main sponsor versus the co-sponsor, and I'll be respectful of your relationship with all these guys because you want them, you know, you'd all want them to be main sponsors, and Julie and I'd be more than willing to be co-sponsors. You understand? Yeah. But that's the real answer. So if you come across somebody, just turn them on to libertas.com and you guys can co-sponsor with us, and my system will do the work, and they get coaching for free. They get all the other things for free. I
elaborate, if you wouldn't mind, Tim, a little bit on your coaching. So they get the coaching for free. I have not looked into that. Is that once a week, multiple times?
It's every
a week?
day. So
Every day.
they get a daily semi-private coaching call. The system normally costs upwards to $5,000, but we give it to them when they're part of our Libertas group. So for up until Glenn came up with co-sponsoring, everyone who was in our Libertas group, whether I sponsored them or rather Julie sponsored them, or whether they're in any of our 7 levels, they all got all the benefits of Libertas for free. Now with the whole co-sponsoring thing, we're going to extend those to the other branches that we're going to start creating from co-sponsoring.
And so again, I apologize. I have not seen this Libertas, so I'm assuming it's an entire production machine.
Well, it's called, I'll put it in chat. Yeah. Okay. You're asking me a really good
it's
question.
in there, I
Sorry.
think, bylibertas.com.
No, this is, all right. So you guys are asking for more links. So Premier Coaching is the actual coaching product. So if you're a non-EXP agent and you want to sign up, that's where you're going to go to sign up. And then Tim and Julie Harris is our main website. But Why Libertas is just for EXP. It's basically like our brochure site.
Okay.
How do you coach your agents to invite to Libertas? All right, we'll get to that. Thank you, Kelly. So what happens is with Premier Coaching, remember, Julie and I are coaches first. We had a coaching organization, and then we joined EXP. So we didn't form our coaching organization around EXP. We already had a really good market presence prior to joining EXP, and we still do. So what is Premier Coaching? You get it's a 13-level program that when you join with us at EXP, or you full pay it if you're a non-EXP agent, you get all 13 levels right away. I'm going to give you guys another link. Sorry. I had eye surgery about 6 months ago, and I sometimes screw things up. .com.
Yeah, this co-sponsoring, you guys, and I'm sure everybody knows,
Okay.
game changer. So go
All
ahead.
right. So that ethical real estate professional is level 13. So when somebody's in, and everybody who's in Libertas who caps, they get ethical real estate professional for free. Normally you have to basically be in Premier Coaching for 12 months and then you get it at month 13. And so that is a turnkey, very high-end, prestigious designation it's taken us a year to create, but there it is. So what we wanted to do in our coaching business is we wanted to create a tremendous value. We want people to join Premier Coaching. And I literally want them to think this, damn, I'm ripping Tim and Julie off. I'm getting so much shit for a price that I can't afford. It's so affordable. That's what I want them to think. I want them to think that they're not just, that it's an even exchange. I want them to think they're getting so much the better end of the bargain. That's a huge home run. That's always been our mission when we create products. Well, now we've extended this because of co-sponsoring, frankly, to all of Libertas. So these added benefits were only previously open for the people in our group, but now because of co-sponsoring, we're going to make it available to everyone. I mean, co-sponsoring, if you do it right, it's going to help the new agent who's never sponsored anybody. Just turn them over to us. We'll do the work for you. That's really the bottom line. And yeah, so that's the way the system works. I haven't really decided whether I'm going to give co-sponsoring agents Libertas sites. Frankly, I probably will. It doesn't cost me that much. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Premier Coaching is a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches, and they're all EXP agents, well, except for one. And you get a complete system, lead generation, every single thing you can possibly imagine you need in to build your real estate business profitably. No whiz bang, shiny object ideas in our Premier Coaching program. Scripts, objection handlers. If you wanted to add staff, you can do that. Just all the things you could ever possibly want are in Premier Coaching. We have various levels. Premier Coaching is the entry level program, and then the most expensive program we have is $3,500 a month. But everybody starts with Premier Coaching because that's the basis, and everyone in Libertas gets it for free.
So you guys, I'm sure by whether your head's spinning thinking about how to utilize this, but think about for just a minute, if you're new to attraction, check out some of these websites Tim and Julie have. You could be in the midst of just an agent that you know right now. You're not quite sure how to approach them. You may look at this stuff and go, listen, you will not believe what I just come across, and I can give you access to this, but I want you to check it out first. You could have them check out the website if they're like, oh my gosh, kind of like Tim's saying, if it's that incredible, all of a sudden you're saying, listen, they can come over and you can co-sponsor with Tim and Julie.
But you have to co-sponsor directly with us. You can't co-sponsor with anybody else in our group, though. That's the thing, because otherwise the numbers don't work for us.
Yeah. No, totally get it. Totally get it. I just want to throw that out because, obviously not bringing people on here to sit and market their business, but I'm telling you, everything's changed with co-sponsorship. And
Totally.
if you're struggling to attract, check out these websites, and it might be as simple as Tim said. You got a relationship with someone, you send that website and say, I can give you access to every bit of this. How? Come on over with me and you co-sponsor with Tim and Julie.
Well, they may have, I don't know what percent, I'm only going to guess. Probably 30% of the time, maybe they know who we are. And that little level of influence will make your job easy. Just say, I'm partnered with Tim and Julie Harris. And they'll, like 30% of the time they might go, oh, I think I listened to their podcast. Or they'll go like, how did that goofy ass looking guy get a cute girl like that to marry him 34 years ago? I mean, either way works.
I was going to ask that, Tim. It was the same thing.
Oh yeah. Fuck you, Sean.
So first of all, man, awesome information. I need to check out all your websites. Again, it's so funny as I keep thinking about attraction, doing these interviews, everything's changed with co-sponsoring. It really
has.
You guys are obviously powerful. You guys know there's 10, 15, 20 people in EXP that have incredible followings, incredible coaching, all kinds of stuff. So just be creative, but think out.
But are there
now?
Are there really?
I think you guys were the only ones, but Kelly said there might be 2 or 3 others, and I just elaborated.
Well, okay. I don't think there are that many. I think there's probably Julie and I, there's Mike Sherrard. I think he does a really good job. So at EXP, Mike is the only person that's sponsored more people than Julie and I have, but he hasn't because he's only been there for, he's only been there for 5 years, not 6. So he's not had over 50 FLQA. So it grinds him when I remind them that we've had more than 50 FLQA longer than you. It's only because he's, not been there longer, but he's sponsored more people than us. So Mike for sure. But beyond that, if you're going to want to think about who you want to partner with, you got to think about who's got reach outside of EXP, who's actually established a brand for themselves outside of EXP. And honestly, Sean, as I've been thinking about this, I can't think of anybody else other than Julie and I and Mike in a meaningful way. I mean, you could say Ricky. I think Ricky Caruth does a good job, and there may be some other people too, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, and you know more about it than I do. But again, I'm eager to go check out all these websites and stuff because I think there's certain agents I'm thinking about right now going, I need to see how powerful this is. It might be as simple as a text or a drip on somebody that might move them forward. But go ahead, Sandra.
Sandra, you got to mute. There you go.
Thank you, Tim. You answered the question of how I communicate co-sponsoring. Look, I've partnered with Tim and Julie.
That's it.
Thank you for keeping that simple. The question that I didn't hear answered was that part of your conversation with Julie in the truck where she asked you the question that caused the needle to move for you. I didn't hear that.
Oh, you're right. I didn't close it. You're very, very good for pointing us out because this is the part, and she's listening. This is the part that makes her she'll laugh. You're going to hear cackling in the background.
It's good question asking.
Yeah, well, Sandra, now you're about to embarrass me, but that's okay. So we're in the truck, we're driving up to Georgetown, and I said, well, I'm still not sure. Back to story time, right? I'm still not sure. And then she didn't say anything, and she goes, well, don't you think you're a hypocrite if you don't join EXP and tell the agents if you're if you think EXP is in line with us and we're not doing it, doesn't that make you a hypocrite for not doing it? That's what she said to me. So thank you for you used your intuition to pick up the fact that I was avoiding the best part of the story.
And thank you. The next time I come to Texas, I'm probably going to look to do a Kill Tony episode or try to sign up because some of the stuff we lived through is just ripe for open mic nights anywhere. And that part of being a human that we share with others, I'm believing now that you saw what we do with Glenn closes the loop. We help people get rich. In the other business model, you saw from the founder, he knew he couldn't help people get rich. Is that what the conclusion I'm drawing?
I don't know. You're talking about Keller Williams?
Yes.
I don't have an opinion. I know, I mean, when Keller Williams was coming up was when Julie and I were coming up in the 90s. And like when we were with Howard Brinton, there's the biggest, I don't have anything against Keller Williams, to be honest with you. I think what Gary did and what he implemented, especially back in the 90s into the 2000s, it was unbelievable. He didn't really create anything. He just copied, but look, would there be an EXP if there wasn't for a Gary Keller who wasn't respectful to Glenn? Would all that have actually happened? I mean, so if you look at the, you don't judge somebody by what they say, you judge them by what they do, and you judge them by what they create. And what Gary's created in the industry is more business-minded real estate agents that are able then to have the tools to at least, frankly, have been open to the idea of EXP. I don't think there would have been an EXP if there wasn't a Keller Williams,
Agree. I think
but
so.
there would be no
Right.
Keller. There would be no Keller Williams if he didn't take the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That book was from Howard Brinton. Okay, the whole team model that was formed at Howard Brinton, and Gary just emulated it. He copied it. All that stuff. When you look at the black and white picture inside, those are all Howard Brinton stars. Julie and I were in some of those meetings when they were creating the team model and all this and all the other thing. And the original team model, just to answer your question, was very profitable because the buyer agents were responsible for generating their own leads. But what's happened is that the whole thing became bastardized after Zillow started selling leads to agents in 2007, and all these buyer agents started becoming entitled. And then Zillow now charged. Do you guys know what they charge for flex agents? Do you guys have any idea? I had a call with someone last week. They're paying $10,000 a month plus 40% referral fees on their buyer leads. Did you know that, Sean?
No. Wow. So they've got to be getting results or that would not sell.
Listen, they weren't. That's the call I had with them. They weren't making any net profit. They were getting results. They were selling houses and they were doing volume and they were getting awards and plaques and platitudes, but they were not making any net profit. As a matter of fact, this poor gal was, the profit she was making on the listing side of the business from her center of influence and past client, she was taking the profit she was making from the listing side, subsidizing the buyer side.
Holy smoke. No, I didn't know that.
But that's what's happening in the industry. And that's been happening really, again, agents have been lied to for so long. And, you guys got into the business. Why'd you get into the business? Can you answer that question? Put your comments in the chat. And then are you still on that mission? You got in the business to be financially independent. You got in the business to help people. You got in the business, right? Aren't those the things that drive you? And then as soon as you get in the business, you're supposed to form a team. You're supposed to work on your brand. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do the other things. Well, why? What does that have to do with what my original vision was? And you just traded it in to somebody trying to sell you something. Yeah, there you go. That was my Samantha. That was my thing. Freedom. By the way, does anyone know what the word libertas means? Oh, come on. Some of you went to Catholic school. Who knows what libertas means?
I see.
Yes, there you go. Samantha got it. Where's Samantha? I'm going to look at you. See if she looks like a nice Catholic girl. Oh, yeah, she does. Definitely. Good job, Samantha. Well, that's the only place you can learn Latin anymore. Yeah. So, it means freedom. It also means liberty, but freedom is what it means. And so why, libertas, that was when I had the inspiration for that name, is because that's what people want ultimately. They want freedom.
Let me ask you a question, Tim, and I know you probably don't have to do this at all, but if you were making outbound calls, someone just right now obviously doesn't have the credibility and all you have and so forth, but they're just picking up the phone to call an agent. And if they call an agent, the agent's doing let's just call it 3-4 million in production. Do you mind me asking, just with your coaching, do you just steer them back to websites? How would that call start off? If you just picked up the phone and called someone you didn't know, what might you say to them?
Well, Eric Orland, who's part of our group, actually has come up with some really good scripts for doing just that. And so Eric would be the expert to ask on that. But as far as calling, if you're going to, you asked me a question and I'm realizing I didn't answer it. So if you're wanting to get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to put together a list of the people you've done deals with. And if you've not done a lot of deals, the list of at least the agents that if you were to have a barbecue or whatever in your backyard, who you're going to invite over, people you'd actually want, people that you're, friendly with, if not friends, that would be the first people. And then there's a lot of good scripts out there, that you can use to break the ice, but you guys are coming in. EXP is not like it was 6 years ago. Half the time, 6 years ago, the question I get is, "What's EXP?" Like, how do you get past that? You know,
Mhm.
you don't get that question anymore. No one says, "What's EXP?" So everyone's EXP curious, and that's the first place you got to start. Everyone with a real estate license is EXP curious, or they're ready to join EXP, right? Or they're just not really even serious about real estate. I guess there's a third category. But that's the bottom line. There are hundreds of thousands of agents out there that are ready to join EXP or EXP Realty Curious. And that's the first step. So everyone you talk to, and you got to believe in what you're selling, right? I mean, do you guys believe there's any brokerage that's going to be better than for agents long term for their growth? I don't.
Yeah.
Especially when you sprinkle in revenue share, the opportunity to create passive income, and then you have to open their mind. Like, so depending on who it is, I wouldn't necessarily talk about revenue share. I would just recruit them and then talk to them about revenue share when they get in. For every 10 people I recruit, I probably only have maybe 20% that I have an initial revenue share conversation with, because most of them aren't interested in it because they don't see themselves doing it. And I'm not going to pressure them to do that. I want them to join EXP, and then they're going to trip over it, and then they're going to want to know how to do it. And I've already got their bases covered. I'm going to get them in coaching. I'm going to get them in Libertas and the rest of it. But they're, statistically, they're not going to be recruiters. Most people aren't. What is it? 20% probably are recruiting at EXP. You're not going to change the numbers, you know? So if you recruit 10, you're going to have 2 people that are going to be recruiters. And if those 2 people basically recruit 10 people, 2 of those people are going to be recruiters, and your group will start to grow. So the first thing is basically form a group of people, that you have a friendly relationship with, and start talking to them and ask them, listen, I joined EXP a while ago, and this has just been a really strange experience. I mean, what are you experiencing at your brokerage? And, don't ask them, what are the things. Everyone's got to complain about their brokerage, especially in the market right now. And it's very, very easy. If I have somebody that's worth chasing and they're a big producer, one of the easiest ways to recruit them, and they're not at EXP, is just do the math. And I'll ask them, how much money did you earn last year? How much money did you earn the year before and the year before? And I'll add it all up, and I'll say, how much did you pay your brokerage? And they always say, I'm on a 95.5. I'm not supposed to tell anyone. It's some big secret handshake deal. And then I'll say, well, is it 95.5? And are you paying any sort of royalty or any additional? Well, I pay my 7%, and then I have the transactions fee. Oh, okay. You're not on 95.5. You're like on an 87% split. All right. So let's write that down. In the last 3 years, you've earned how much money? $2 million. Okay, let's write that down. And then before taxes, expenses, and the rest of it, and then I show them how much money they paid their brokerage. And then I'll say, and this really works if they were Icon agents, and I'll say, you realize at EXP, you wouldn't have paid EXP anything. As a matter of fact, because the Icon program, effectively, we would have paid you to be at EXP, and they usually say nothing. And then I say, I had this wasn't someone I was recruiting, it's someone in our group. He had an agent, Century 21 agent, $340,000 is what he paid his broker last year. Think about that. That was the highest one. I've had others that were similar. So I said, and this guy, he was in his 40s. He had like 3 or 4 kids. He was working his ass off all the time, the whole thing. And I said to him, and without really making him feel bad, I said, so do you realize how much that money would be worth if you just put it in the S&P 500 that you paid your broker in 10 years? And he didn't. And I said, it would be worth about $700,000. Do you realize by the time you were ready to, you're in your mid 60s, how much it'd be worth? $1.4 million. So are you thinking that you're going to earn the same amount of money this year, next year, next year? And he said, yes. I said, so over the next 5 years, you're going to be paying your broker an average of $340,000. And if you just put all that money in the S&P 500, and you can use AI now to do this math really easy, it's kind of fun. You would basically, by the time you hit 63, you would have approximately I think for him, it was like $9 million. And that's without revenue share saved. Okay. So let me tell you what $9 million will do. If $9 million, the S&P 500 in the last 20 years is appreciated by 10.3% per year. So you'll make $900,000 a year if you just take the capital gains, or you could just pull out half per year, leave 5% in to continue to appreciate, and you'll make $450,000 a year passively, or you can keep paying your broker. What's best for you? And that's not talking about revenue share. That's how I get the big ones.
Yeah. An Icon agent, if they're open, if somebody's at another place and they're doing 30 plus transactions, 8 million or greater, if they're open-minded, it's somewhat of an easy attraction to bring someone over like that. You just got to get hold of the one who's open. And if you don't have the relationship, tends to be a little harder to talk to someone who's a big producer if you don't know them. You don't have some kind of credibility or know them. But otherwise, I totally agree, Tim. Yeah,
Well, you
just
can pull in a relationship. Like I just sponsored Chris Heller, the guy I was telling you about. Chris Heller came in. Now he's under Julie at EXP. He brought his team of like 15 over. So the former Keller Williams, you guys are getting a scoop. Keller Williams or EXP is going to do a big PR thing about it really soon. So, former CEO of Keller Williams joins EXP. But Chris is going to be a great recruiter, but he doesn't actually want to do the things necessary. He's too busy. He doesn't want to be on the phones and actually talking directly with agents. But he knows he can leverage the Libertas platform, and the agents will, for the most part, see the overwhelming value. I mean, really, at the end of the day, what you guys got to remember with co-sponsoring, you don't need. And the stupidest thing you can do is try to copy what we did, because you can't. You don't have enough time on the job, and it's a waste of time. Just use what we've done, use everything we've created, and co-sponsor with us. I mean, that's Glenn's genius right there. If you think about it, that's crazy.
Kelly's asking, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. How do you coach your agents to invite to Libertas?
I don't really, again, I don't believe I've coached for too long. I don't think, like you guys have all heard, you can help somebody. It's okay to help somebody start their fire once, but if they have to keep on coming back to have you reignite their fire, they're not really fire starters, and you just need to move on. And I guess I've been coaching for too long, and too maybe, when I come to thinking about business, I'm very analytical, and I just look at the stats. I'll give you guys some stats. I just told you some. 10% of all the agents that come to EXP are going to be recruiters. 30% are going to quit every year. Okay. That's the churn at EXP. So my only mission, the only two things I can really control at EXP, there's only two. I have to, for Julie to have over 50 or around 50 FLQA, she doesn't even need it anymore, right? She only needs 30. But for Julie to have 50, I have to have approximately 2x what FLAs to FLQAs. So if you want to always maintain 30 FLQAs, which most of you will never even need because your groups aren't going to be that big, truthfully. Most of you, if you get up to 300 or 400 agents, you're going to be making over 10,000, 10 to 15,000 a month. I'm guessing most of you are going to be pretty set then. But I know the ratio is 2 to 1. So I know every year I'm going to lose 30%. So I can control how many people I'm going to recruit. So every year I set the goal of knowing, like Julie's got 116 or 120 FLAs. So technically I wouldn't have to recruit anybody the rest of the year, but I'm going to end up recruiting 30 again, or 25 probably. I think I'm 14 now. And so the only thing I can actually control are how many people I actually recruit. And this is the recruiting conversation. And when a unicorn shows up, when one of those 10% people show up, they sort of self-identify. They ask the right questions. They just want to get to work. They want to be on 1 or 2 recruiting calls with you. I'll do Zooms with them so they can listen to me in my jib jab. And then they don't want anything to do with you. They just want to go off and do their own thing. That's what a true unicorn is. Somebody that constantly comes back, asks for questions, asks the same question they've asked 10 times before. They're not true recruiters. So I am long given up on the idea that I can make somebody who's not a recruiter into a recruiter. I'm not even going to bother trying. It's asinine. So I'm going to personally make sure I'm recruiting. I'm going to recruit the number I have to maintain Julie's 2-to-1 ratio. And I'm going to help the people that are the most likely to be other recruiters. This is just for the sake of recruiting. When it comes to helping them sell real estate, they've got premier coaching, and my coaches do all that for them.
Yeah. And I would agree with exactly what you said. Yeah. It's the ones who are going to recruit, you know it.
Totally.
The first few weeks, if not the first 30 days. Yeah. Come back to you a couple times, may ask for a couple 3-way calls. Let me see 1 or 2 Zooms, and boom, they're just up and running their own show. And I think Kathy, Kelly were all nodding their heads. I can look at all the ones that have done it. I didn't have to do anything. It's like when Rob recruited me, Flick. I just went off. That was something I was going to do, and he didn't have to do much past the first 30 days. So
have you ever thought of the psychology behind that, Sean? Why this opportunity is equally available to everyone, and why not everyone participates? Have you ever thought about why?
I'd love to hear.
It's because a lot of people are really comfortable being in their golden cages, and they don't want to be out of it, because they figure if they start earning a lot more money, their friends and their family and their environments are going to start rejecting them. And they're right. It will. And that's too much for them to handle. And so they just stay in their own little worlds. And there's a statistic, it's from the 70s, but I'm sure it's still true, that something like 90% of everyone is born and dies within the same 50-mile radius of the exact same spot. And that's how most people live. I mean, we all live in our little bubbles. And so the reality of it is that's the reason that you cannot get a non-recruiter to be a recruiter. You can't get you know, in every sport and everything that's competitive, there's always going to be the 1%. And can you take someone who's inert and make them into a thing? No, I can't. But if they have a life, I had a coaching client, his name was Monet Castroneves. That was his real name. And so Monet came to me after all of what I'm about to tell you had happened. So he was on the cover of Men's Fitness magazine. And so Monet was telling us, and Monet hired me as his coach. I taught him how to do all the things. He started making a lot of money in his real estate business. He built a big rental profile. This was years ago. He bought a bunch of rental properties, and he fired me because he didn't want to work anymore. And he just wanted to live off his rental cash flow, which was fine. But Monet started telling me, because he was one of the few agents I've ever coached, Susan, I remember him, that didn't screw around. What do I do? Okay, I'm going to do it. I'll tell you, the other one was Ricky Carruth. When I was coaching Ricky Carruth, I told him what to say and how to say it, and he just did it. It's very rare that you find somebody like that. Those are the unicorns. So Monet, it turns out, had been really, really, really fat to the point where he'd been fat for so long, he was having, what's the disease where you start to lose your appendages and blood flow and all that? What's that?
Ooh.
You know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you. I'm not saying any of you guys are fat. I'm just saying diabetes. Okay. So his diabetes had gotten so bad that he was, the doctor told him, if you don't lose weight, you develop gangrene because your body's not able to circulate enough blood to all your appendages. That's what happened. So he tells me this story after I've been coaching him for a while. After he showed me his friggin' Men's Health magazine, which you should have seen this guy. He looked like a lizard, you know? He was so lean. He said he went to the doctor after having gone to the doctor for years and years and years, and the doctor saying, you have to lose weight or you're going to have to have parts of your foot and parts of your legs removed. Ugh, you know. And then he said he went to the doctor once, and the last time the doctor said, okay, we need to schedule your surgery because your left foot may have been the right one. I don't remember. Has to be completely removed because it's obviously it's dying because you now can see the black patches of the lack of blood flow, all that. It wasn't until that very moment, this is Monet telling me this story, that he decided to lose the frickin' weight. And he did. And I told you the output. He basically got in the world's best condition. So most people, Sean, to answer my own question, will not do shit unless the perceived pain of doing the activity is less than the real pain of having to do it. So most people are not going to pick up the phone. Most people are never going to proactively lead generate. Most people are never going to cold call anybody. In other words, the things that get you paid the most until their backs are against the wall, until they have no money, until the perceived psychological pain of doing the activity is greater than what the real pain is. I'm not interested. Click. Get it? And
Yeah.
so most people stay in these little cushy areas where they have enough savings for 2 months, where they have a nice soft warm bed, where they go to the same vacation hut every year up on Lake Erie or whatever the hell it is. And that's what their lives are forever.
Yeah, that's a very, very true. I fall into that category. I'll be honest with you. It's pain and pleasure. I've experienced pain twice where life turned upside down, back against the wall. And when I found EXP, I was in that situation. It's a terrible situation, but I'm guilty of it. I had to wait till I just couldn't stand it anymore, and I had to go all in.
Most of the best recruiters were in that exact profile. Did you know that?
Yeah. I
Okay,
agree. That's what happened
but
to
Sean,
me.
did you know that? Honestly, did you know that?
No.
The most of the best recruiters at EXP, I cannot think of a single exception except Julie and me and Gene Frederick. That's the truth. Were broke. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I bet you're correct. If you interviewed everybody to know that their back was against the wall, they were in a bad situation, they came out swinging and went after the rev share. You're probably right, but I look at all the different ones I've interviewed, and I don't know some of those detailed stories, but like Chuck Fazio, when I think of that whole situation, I don't know whether his back was against the wall. They were bringing over that giant brokerage, and I know only several hundred came. But anyway, these are stories. I know we don't have time for all of these, but I agree with what you say. So let me ask you this, give one last question as we wrap up. What would you say to someone on here who they're in that little bubble? They're semi-comfortable, like you said. They've got enough to maybe last 2, 3, 4 months if they didn't have a transaction. But how do you get someone? I know you said you can't push them. You can't. But that mindset shift to get someone to go, God, do you want to live your life like this? You're going to work till the day you die if something doesn't change.
Honestly, Sean, I'd leave them the hell alone. If they're happy in that little bubble, leave them the hell alone. Good for them. You don't know what they had to go through to get to that little bubble. They may have gone through hell and back. They may have had a lifetime of horrible diseases, horrible hardships, just absolute shit show of tragedy. And now they're finally at a place. And if you show up in their lives and you say it's not good enough because you could have all this more shit, you're just being disrespectful. That's what I honestly think. I'm not a big fan of the mindset movement. I think it's the antithesis of being a good Christian, if you want to know the truth.
Mhm.
So as far, no, that is the truth. So
Real quick, looks like it's 10 o'clock. I know you, Tim. Thank you, bro. One last question. Kathy's got her hand up. One last question, Kathy. Go ahead.
Hey, Tim, good stuff. Thanks so much. My question real quick is what is your path for your agents in your group that want to recruit? What is your training path? And, if you can just high level it.
I do. So it doesn't matter where they are on any level, right? So I know who they are. So I'm in a position now where I have some good leaders in our group. Dan Lesniak, Orlando Montiel, Eric Orland. So I've got some good people. But when I was starting, I had to do it all myself. And I was learning on the job too, So I didn't roll up one day and know everything about EXP. So I would do Zooms with them and I would teach them how to sell. I would teach them how to ask questions. I would teach them how to prepare the call prior to the call, send the pre-listing pack like we teach you when you're going after being a listing agent. And I would take them through the whole process. And like I was just talking about, if I had to do that over and over again, they weren't serious and I was going to kind of back off and not, if, for example, if they kept bringing, my one rule is that you have to have, before I get on a call with anybody, they have to have watched all 3 videos on Why Libertas, because I do not want to spend my time talking about an $80 a month fee or $85 a month. I don't want to spend time talking about our tech stack. I just don't. You watch those videos, you learn what's available at EXP. And when you're on the call, this is the first thing I'll say. I jib jab and have fun with them, make them relax. I genuinely like talking to people. But then what I'll say is so at this point, Kathy, when folks are on the Zoom with me after they've watched the 3 videos, it's because it's down to maybe 1 or 2 lingering questions that they need to have answered before they move forward with us today and join EXP. Or maybe they just need help filling out the application. Which one is you? I'm not going to ask them what they're thinking. I'm not going to ask them open-end questions. I'm going to say 1 or 2 questions. What are the questions? And 99.9% of the time, they're asking questions that they already knew the answers to. They just wanted to feel more connected.
So you're
It's not
basically
hard.
just having your agents, teaching them how to ask questions, sending them, telling them to go, have their prospect look at the 3 videos. Of
That's it. So
Libertas.
Kathy, if we're working together and you're trying to go after somebody, here's what I'm going to do. You got somebody named Bob. Okay. And Julie and I are right now over in Murphy, North Carolina, which isn't so far from you. And I'll say, send Bob the whylibertas.com site, tell him to watch all 3 videos. You confirm he's watched all 3 videos. And if he needs some more reeling in, then I might call him directly. You just text me and, include Bob. Or I will maybe do a Zoom with them. I usually like to do on the phone and just do a call. I might do a FaceTime. And then I'll just say, if you ever do a traction call with me, that's what you're going to hear I'm going to say. I'm not going to try to fake friend them. I think, again, that's disrespectful. I'm not going to try to do all these, like, you got to remember people's time is incredibly valuable. You only live once and you're dead a real long time. And you only have so many effective hours per day. And if you are, don't get to the point in a respectful way when you're in a sales environment, people intuitively don't trust you. So when you say to them after they've watched the videos, at this point, Kathy, when I'm on a Zoom or I'm talking with someone, it's usually down to maybe 1 or 2 lingering questions they might have, or maybe they just want me to help them fill out the application, which is you. They'll ask me a question usually about, again, it's things they already know the answers to. And then I'll say, so just so I understand, Kathy, you have questions about the commission splits and you want to know about, I don't know, whatever it is, the CRM or whatever. Okay, so I'll answer those 2 questions and I won't answer them in great detail. I'm not going to get into it and demo the CRM. I'm not going to do any of that. And then I'll say, before I answer the questions, just so I'm clear, Kathy, after I've answered these 2 questions and assuming I've done it to your satisfaction and you don't have any other questions, will you be moving forward with us tonight or today with EXP? Well, I want to think about it. Okay, well, I respect that. You're going to want to think about it. But at that point, it'll probably make sense that we'd move forward together and be partners at EXP. And they'll say, yeah, probably. Then I'll answer their 2 questions. So the first question was about the $85 a month, let's say. And I'll say, this is what it goes to. And then they'll say, okay, I understand. And then I'll say, well, do you have any other questions about that? And they'll say, no. I'll say, okay, well, we can scratch that one off the list. So let's go to the next one. Your next question was whatever it was. And then I'll answer that question. Okay, good. Sounds like we've overcome both of your questions. Let's go ahead and move forward. And I'm going to do it in a way that's appropriate to the personality and appropriate to their age, frankly, appropriate to a lot of different things. So, but the gist of it is they know they're on that call with me because they want to join EXP. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on that call. They don't want to get to know me anymore. They don't want to know about my dog or my lunch or my fancy CRM. They want to join EXP. That's the point of the call.
Fantastic.
We just got a mic ready. Dropped. All right. Sandra, I don't know. Tim, it's 5 after, bro. Can you take one more?
Of course.
One more question? All right, Sandra.
It, so I'm going to call the person and ask them those questions. Are you ready to fill out the app, or do you have any other questions from watching those 3 videos that I can answer? And then I'll have Tim call you. What number do you want me to use?
Holy crap, Scott. Is that true? What you just put in there? Scott
Yeah.
was in Scott was on our Hondros college when we were getting pre-licensing done. That is bonkers.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Wow.
and thanks for not getting sponsored by us, Scott. Good call.
Yeah.
All right, so
I was
Sandra,
thinking I should have sponsored you.
You can
Exactly.
co-sponsor with them, though.
Sandra,
You're
I'm
okay
sorry.
with
I'm
that.
not meaning to be disrespectful. That just threw me in the time machine. What was your question again? I apologize. It's Scott's fault.
What number do you want me to use for you, Tim?
Oh, it's 512-758-0206. But Sandra, you had a question too. I'm sorry. What was your question? Was it Sandra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say 512-758-0206?
Yes, ma'am. And text, don't call. I never answer it's always, I don't, if you call the voicemail says, don't call me, text.
Okay.
I'm just, I don't like being on the phone. Just text, we cut
Right.
through it. Sandra, did I answer your question? I don't mean
I
to.
think
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, hey, Tim, let's wrap this thing up, man. First of all, thank you, dude, for staying for a few minutes after. I think everybody's kind of in awe of this whole situation. But guys, life's different today, man. This co-sponsoring has changed the game. You might want to check out some of his websites. It may boost your confidence to reach out to that one that you've known. They're your friend. Maybe they're your old broker and you didn't quite know what to do or what to say. You might check out those websites. It might give you enough ammunition and confidence to just have them take a look at that as your friend. That may be all it takes. So anyway, dude, sincerely appreciate it, Tim. Congrats on you and Julie's success. And thank you for pouring in, dude, with your podcast and all that, what you guys do. Sincerely appreciate it. I know you got a ton of video and all that. Do you want this content? Do you want this recording?
Sure. I will. I'm going to suggest everyone listens to a specific podcast. Actually, maybe you guys can help me out here. Can someone go to Google right now and just do this? Because Scott, this I think will be a really good place for them to listen to this podcast. Someone go to Google and put in "make housing great again." Just someone do it, and then find the link. It could either be the YouTube link or our iTunes link, and put it in the comments. Because Julie and I did a lot of research when we were bored of the holidays.
Welcome back.
I got it.
There you got it. Yeah. So drop it in there. Now that is, there's 3 of those because we updated it 3 times, but I want you guys to understand that we are absolutely positively at the beginning stages of a super cycle in real estate that's going to be unlike anything that we've ever experienced in all of our careers. And the reason is bottom line is demographics. So you've got to understand that you're in the right place at the right time, at the right brokerage, with the right tools, with the right people around you. There are going to be more. There are going to be more agents getting into the business, not fewer. There's not going to be a big there's not going to be a big apocalypse because of AI. That's a big lie. You are going to experience, if you open your mind to it, more people wanting to buy and sell real estate than any time in the history of the United States. The only exception maybe being after World War II. You're going to see private, public, development happening all over the country. Fannie and Freddie Mae are about to come out of conservatorship, but the sheer number of people that want to transact over the next 25 years, starting effectively this year, is like nothing we've ever seen before. This is what we're experiencing now is the end of the last super cycle that started in the 90s. That was the 25-year cycle. And now we're starting a new one. The last cycle was driven by the baby boomers. The new cycle is driven by the baby boomers' kids and their kids too, when they're all starting to make babies. So the number of people that are going to want to be in the real estate business is going to be off the charts. The number of people that are going to want to transact is going to be like nothing we've ever seen before. So please open your mind that your best days, your best years, the best aspect of your life, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how young you are, I don't care how fat you are, or skinny you are still ahead of you if you choose for it to be.
And that's what that podcast that we just posted, that's kind of all what that's about.
It's more drilled down than what I just did. Julie and I's daily podcast is much more drilled down, but yes, that is what it's about. But get it in your head, because everywhere I'm turning, I'm seeing all this AI is going to replace agents. How exactly is AI good? It's not. That's just a lie. And I don't want to get,
Tim,
I don't want to get
on here, but real quick before we jump, what time are your podcasts? You do them every day, same time?
Yeah, but we record them and then we post them. So, they get released every morning, I think at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. Pacific time.
And those recordings are which one of these links?
No, you just subscribe to iTunes. How many of you guys, by a raise of hands, listen to podcasts at all?
Little bit.
Okay, you guys should definitely be listening to podcasts. Some of the best information ever is coming out in podcasts, and it's not being filtered by people with agendas. That's number one. Number two, if you listen to podcasts, how many of you who listen on iTunes or an other audio only platform? How many just listen audio only? Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Me and I don't know his name. Fantastic beard, by the way. Okay, and Kathy, yeah. So that's how I listen to podcasts, but most people listen to podcasts on YouTube. So either go to our YouTube channel. If you scroll back up, you can subscribe, or just listen on iTunes. But we do it every day. So if you like our jib jab, you like the energy and the focus, but I'll tell you what's more, I think, Sandra, to answer your question, send our podcast to people you have. Send the podcast. Oh, there it is, Sean. Send the podcast that I just sent to you about why we're at the beginning stages of the 25-year housing boom. Send the YouTube, whatever, to all the people in your list. Say, you got to listen to this, and then follow up with them and say, how would you like to partner with me and this goofball Harris at eXp Realty?
Yeah, that's good. I'll go listen, man. That was powerful, dude. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Wow. Appreciate it, brother Tim, Julie. You guys are incredible. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. What's on the agenda tomorrow, Kathy? Who's doing our Tuesday?
I'm actually doing it on divorce and real estate. So we're going to be
Okay.
learning how to deal with getting clients going through divorces and becoming the expert in that field there. So I'll be leading that one tomorrow. So join in on that. Tim, I'll reach out to you and I'd love to get you scheduled on one of our Tuesdays in the near future.
Yeah, me or Julie, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Tim.
So
Thank you,
good.
brother.
Thank
Once I
you,
get the
Tim.
video, I'll send it over to you.
So
Thank
you have some questions. You guys scroll back up and read. All the answers to your questions are all back up. I posted all the links when we started the show today.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope you
All right.
guys grabbed all those links. I'll keep it here for another minute or two. If somebody hasn't grabbed all those links, feel free to grab them.
All right.
Tim, thank you, my man.
God
Appreciate
bless
it.
everyone. Have a good day.
God bless you, bro.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, real quick before you jump. I mean, that was obviously, I didn't know where that was going, and I haven't seen all of these links, but I'm like, wow. Because if he truly, now obviously their podcast doesn't matter. No matter what we do to get somebody to go, oh my gosh, I would team up with that guy. Your thought, now he's off of there, co-sponsoring with him. I don't, if you got the relationship and you've started it, I don't think anybody's going to not co-sponsor with you. But I think you got to be careful about possibly just sending it over to somebody you don't really have the relationship. They may just want to join with them directly. But kind of what are your thoughts on that? I haven't looked at all of his information. I'm assuming it's extremely powerful. But just initial thoughts, Tim, Kathy, on co-sponsoring with Tim. And Julie.
I agree with you. I haven't seen everything either, but I mean, what I like about Tim is he was so freaking real and so genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just tells it like it is. But you're right, Sean. I mean, you've got to have a solid relationship with a potential recruit before bringing in anybody as a co-sponsor, because any recruit can end up liking the co-sponsor better and choose to use them as the sponsor instead of the co-sponsor, or not use them at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the recruit's call. So it's all about relationship, just like real estate sales.
So I would say to all of you that are still hanging right here, if you came from another brokerage or you've got good relationships, you've been doing this for a while, you have to have some pretty good relationships with realtors. Those are the ones you might go look at some of these links and might have a reason just to invite them to go, I just heard a podcast, the best I've ever heard in my life for real estate. You got to listen to this. If it's one of your friends and they listen and come back and go, oh my gosh, dude, I would love to get coaching from this guy, whatever. Now you can talk about co-sponsoring. But boy, you might look at this first and then figure out who do you really have relationships with. This might be an easy way to bring him in if it's that powerful. And if the guy's recruited 300, Tim and Julie, I'd imagine it's pretty darn powerful. And like you said, they're the number 3 or number 4 podcasters in the, I'm assuming US. I don't think you said world, but
Yeah,
US.
he said the US.
That's
Well, and to that point,
on.
though, I think to send that a podcast link out or turn people onto their podcast who may not already know, I would say to only do that with the people that you are close with, that you know
Yeah,
are going to come
that's what
back
I'm
to
saying.
you and not
Close
go directly,
relationships.
because he drops how to connect with them for EXP. In his podcast, he said that. So I wouldn't just give this to any cool
Yeah.
prospect. These are people that you've already started forming relationships with, things like that.
And guys, you
And
can do this. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kath. I was just
I
thinking
was
something.
just going to say, and depending where you are in your own personal recruiting, understanding, and you can talk to Tim, myself, Sean, but understanding what the benefits to you as the agent recruiting them is to be either the sponsor or the co-sponsor, and knowing what position you want to be in first and foremost. If before you turn them on to those guys, if you're going to, or anybody else that you're looking to maybe possibly co-sponsor with. And then secondarily is you want to be the one to make the connection between your potential prospect agent and the potential co-sponsor person, if it be Tim or any other person in the company. So you want to be the one to be the connector, not them going there and then you're kind of coming in back in. So those are just a couple of thoughts that I have.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. So I'm eager to go look at some of his material, you guys. So hopefully those of you on here that haven't been really doing much recruiting, again, as you put that list together, figure out who are your top 10 best relationships, watch some of these links, that podcast he just put up and stuff, and see if you feel strong enough after you listen. It may make you so fired up to go, if my friend Cheryl knew this information, and just get that over to him. So anyway, feel free to come and chat later about this. We can jump on Connect to collaborate. But remember, it's not just him and Julie. There are a lot of other people out there, but he definitely sounds like he might be one of the top to partner with. But let's go check out some of their links.
Hey, Sean.
Guys, go ahead, Scott.
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna say, I was the one that I was in their class in the fall of 1995 in Columbus, Ohio,
Yeah.
Hondros for real estate pre-licensing course, and I knew who they were in that classroom because his ideas they stood out back then too.
Yeah.
He was by far the most thoughtful, intellectual, you know, marketing savvy guy in the class, I would say. So
I'll tell you what, I'm guilty. I have not listened to his podcast, but I'll tell you what, that might become a staple of mine. If I'm going to go listen to a couple of them over the next few days and just see if it's some content that may boost my confidence and not only my approach to agents, but the thought of, oh my gosh, I can partner with Tim and Julie with these agents. It might make this a lot easier to pick up the phone, right? We got some of us that are using funnels, and like he said, he was kind of putting some of that down, but there's a whole another angle, not to go that route, but it is interesting that his approach is a little bit more unique for the sake of their coaching. And he has a system. That's what I got to go check out, Tim, Kathy, all you guys, is what is this system that's going to help people grow their production
Yep.
that is system driven,
Yep.
even though he has coaching calls. So anyway, I'd love to get you guys'
I love that. I love that
on the
concept.
production side, Tim, Kathy. I'd love to hear. Maybe you guys bring it to Friday if you get a chance to listen to some of his stuff. Let's talk more about that, Tim, because it really could be a way to help every one of us here grow our attraction by teaming up with these guys.
Yeah.
Right. So we can
one last thing that I'll just throw out is he kind of poo-pooed AI a little bit. And, I do think as agents, we need to be on top of AI. I mean, Glenn, our founder, no, it was Leo. Was it Glenn or Leo, Tim? One of them,
Glenn.
one of the two, at a leadership conference that we all, me, Tim, Sean just got back from, well, me and Tim and Sean ended up being sick. But anyway, said that if we as agents aren't utilizing AI in our business, we're going to probably become irrelevant. And so to what Tim said, it is all about relationships. 100% agree with that. And I think our founders and CEO agrees with that. But we also get to enhance our business with AI because it is super powerful. So I just want to make that mention because he kind of downplayed AI a little bit with what our founder and CEO just said at a conference 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And I think we all got to put
it
it
is
in
important
perspective,
to
right?
incorporate it. I think it's very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, to put that in perspective in my own mind while I'm listening to him, just going with the kind of credibility they have and the how many, what did he say, several million followers and stuff, and people listen to their podcast. He's in a whole nother level. We doesn't need anything but a phone call because systems are already set
20
up.
million downloads they've had.
That's mind-boggling. But anyway,
Mhm.
let's definitely all go listen to some of that, and then maybe we can either talk about it on
Great
Wednesday or
stuff.
definitely on Friday morning on our leadership call.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, you guys,
Awesome.
thank you so much for those that are hanging around, right? Sincerely appreciate it. This recording will be obviously up like, well, we don't normally put up this. This might be worth putting up. Or is it just a matter of grabbing the links? Because we don't put these RevShare interviews up, or do we? You said you put them on YouTube, but they're not open to the public, Tim? Is that right, on a YouTube channel? Or these Monday calls go up at all?
I'm not sure what Jeff's doing. He does
I
all
think
that.
we put
so-
them in Workplace for sure. So they're in the Freedom Team Workplace,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
For
Some of
sure.
these to go back and listen, but okay, guys, it's about 10:20, man. Thanks again for hanging around. Look forward to hearing you tomorrow morning, Kathy. Thank you for stepping
All
up
right.
and doing that. You
Thank
guys.
y'all.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
great day.
Thanks, gang. All right, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.